What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Southwest Fishing. So in this video, I've been getting a lot of you guys asking me questions, whether it's down in the comments on the YouTube channel or whether it's on my Instagram. If you guys are not already, please go follow me on Instagram at swfishing101. But I have been getting a lot of you guys messaging me asking, what style of baits do I need to be using this time of year to be able to catch fish? One thing I'm not gonna do is tell you anything urban wise, because I feel like if I give you guys any sort of suggestions urban wise, it's just not gonna work. I've had such a bad year when it comes to urban fishing. I don't want my so-called bad juju to rub off on you guys and give you guys some misinformation. The only things that have been working for me while urban fishing have been small meps and also crappie grubs with a 1/16 ounce jig head. Those are the only two things. Only advice I'll give you guys. I cannot give you guys any more advice on anything else because I don't want to give you guys any sort of misinformation. Now, when it comes to the lakes, rivers, stuff like that, I can help you guys out. I'm catching fish when I go out fishing, and it's been fun. And shoot, let's get the video started. All right, guys, so it is officially fall. And during fall, it can be really good fishing as long as you have the right techniques, you're fishing the right areas, everything like that. I've had some of my best days bank fishing and also fishing on the boat when it comes to fall. But you really need to try to match the hatch the best that you possibly can. And one way to do that is this time of year, bass, crappies, whatever you're fishing for, they are chasing bait. They're chasing bait on deep ledges, they're chasing bait up on points, they're chasing bait up on flats. You could go pretty much to any lake and find some sort of fish chasing bait at some point during fall. And it doesn't matter if you're fishing for crappies, largemouth, smallmouth, stripers, white bass, it's all gonna work. Now, obviously it's very popular this time of year to be fishing with a lot of baits that imitate bait fish, because that is the primary forage this time of year. Those bass are getting fat, they're getting all stocked up for winter, because the second winter hits, they shut down, they become real docile, they don't want to hit, and it's tough fishing, it's real tough. So the very first lure that obviously everyone's going to be using is a spinnerbait. You cannot go wrong. Oh, come on, focus. There we go. So the spinnerbait is a great option. You cannot go wrong with it because, number one, these little tiny willow leaf blades that you see right here, they look like little tiny bait fish. Plus with the skirt going through the water column, that looks like an additional bait fish. So the spinnerbait is designed in order to attract the fish and make it look like it's a small bait school swimming through the water column. And obviously, being the time of year that it is nearly pretty much one of the best fishing techniques that have ever been created when it comes to the fishing industry, because not only can you catch fish this time of year with it, but year round. It's such a great technique. And you can let the sucker sink, you can roll this sucker up top, you can roll it on the bottom, you can crank it, you can slow roll it. If you want, you can add a trailer to it, and that's going to slow down the presentation and also bulk up the presentation, so you might get a couple bigger bites and possibly bring in a couple bigger fish, which is never a bad thing. I mean, come on, let's be real. Who doesn't want to catch big fish? Such an awesome technique. You can never go wrong with it this time of year. Just make sure you guys always have a spinnerbait in your tackle box, because no matter what, you're gonna get bites. This is kind of like a bluegill imitation, just because that blue obviously resembles a bluegill, and typically bigger bass like to attack the bluegills. So I like to use this color, but it depends on your water clarity. If you guys have really clear water, use more of a white or a natural color, or the bluegill color. If you have stained water, use chartreuse or white and chartreuse or anything like that, maybe even a purple or a black, because that contrast is going to show up in the water column really well. And the second bait. This time of year, you have a lot of fish willing to eat a little bit bigger profile baits, because like I said, right before winter, they're getting stocked up, they're trying to get fat so that they don't have to move a whole lot during winter. That's the whole point of it. And so one style of bait that works really well, this one is a little bit smaller, but that is a small swim bait. These really small swim baits are freaking wicked. You can run them right along any sort of ledges. You can run them along any sort of point, in the back of coves, anything like that. Obviously, this one resembles a little tiny shad or a bluegill. There's so many different colors of these that you can find. And this one's really cool because it's also got a detachable hook right here. So when the fish bites down, it detaches, and easy freaking hook set right there. and it pops right back down into place, and you are ready to go and catch some freaking mondos. You can pick these suckers up on shopcarls.com, and they have these little tiny ones, which I love using because you can use these in canals, rivers, lakes, ponds, creeks, wherever you're fishing, you can use these little guys. But if you guys want an opportunity at catching bigger bass, they have these in, I believe, a 4-inch. And they have, I believe, about 6 different colors. And the name of this specific lure is the Headhunter by 10,000 Fish. Like I said, awesome lure. You can never go wrong with small little swim baits like this. You could go big swim baits, small swim baits, but at the end of the day, they get bit this time of year because the bass, they're munching, they're chewing, they're pretty much chasing anything that they see. And I mean, just alone, it's awesome getting a bite even on a small lure like this, because it is a small lure, but it's also bulky enough to where the fish knows it has to hit it pretty hard to take it out. So anytime you get hit on a big swim bait or a small swim bait this time of year, it's pretty freaking wicked. It's an intense hit. So hold on to your rod and get ready to be hyped up, because these things are wicked to fish with. So the next bait is an awesome bait because you can fish it so many different ways. You could put it on a little tiny jig head and swim it through the water column. You can obviously put it on a Ned rig. I love fishing it on the Ned rig. Let me just tell you guys that right now. If you guys see any sort of fish toward the bottom, whether you're in 5 feet of water, 10 feet, 20 feet, whatever, and you could see a beta school down there, a school of bait, that makes more sense. But if you guys see a school of bait down there and you see fish chasing them and everything, put on the Mega Bass Hasdongs. These things are freaking wicked. What an awesome freaking bait. I slay the fish in the canals, and I'm sure these are going to work in the ponds as well, and obviously out at the lakes. I mean, I've had 70, 80 fish days with these suckers right here. These things absolutely hammer the fish. And I really like this chartreuse color because it shows up in a lot of water clarities, and even if you have a little bit of stain, it matches the water clarity perfect, so it looks like a natural forage in that specific lake. I love putting that specific lure on a Ned head, and you cast it right up on a point or any sort of a steady decline, and you just bounce that sucker. And when you're bouncing it on the bottom, obviously it resembles a dying baitfish. Maybe a baitfish that was already being chased by a herd of bass, got injured in the process, and is now fluttering down to the bottom, and that lure is now on the bottom of the lake. So it looks like a dying baitfish. A bass comes by, sees it, easy pickings, and picks it up, and you're hooked up. You cannot go wrong with these baits, guys. And I mean, these things are freaking wicked because not only do they have them in these like little 2-inch size, they also come in, I believe, a 3 and a 4-inch. So if you guys want a little bit bigger bite or just an opportunity to catch a bigger fish, you can pick up those bigger ones and, you know, maybe catch a freaking big one. I've never really fished them all that much. Only in like Mission Bay over in San Diego have I tried for like spotties and stuff like that, but I've never actually fished them in the lakes. I've only fished these little tiny 2-inch ones inside the lakes, and they freaking hammer. Make sure you guys go buy at least 1 bag of those, because if you guys have at least 1 bag, you guys will not regret it. It is such an awesome lure. The next two, obviously, fall lures. You can't go wrong with these as well. I'm sure everybody sees these suckers, and that is a little square bill crankbait. These things are awesome to fish along any sort of ledges, any sort of walls. Whether it's a 20-foot, 30-foot wall, you just cast that sucker along the wall, and it's running down there anywhere from 5 to 8 feet, depending on how deep your square bill actually goes. And typically when you're running at that mid-depth, you're gonna get cranked on. There's gonna be some sort of bass chasing bait, pushing it up against the wall or up along a point or up along any sort of beach or anything like that. And when you run these suckers along those specific areas, you are going to catch fish. Not only does it catch small fish, it catches big fish, and also it's all about the size of the lure. Obviously this one is a little bit smaller profile and everything, so typically on a lure like this I catch solid 1.5 2-pounders mainly on these specific styles of square bills. But if you get a little bit bigger one, a little more beefy, you'll have the opportunity to be able to catch a bigger bass, and you can't go wrong with these. I mean, you cast them up along any sort of shoreline, or even if you are a bank fisherman, cast it off a point, cast it off a ledge, do a slow steady retrieval, and you're gonna get bit. These things are freaking wicked, and they got really freaking sharp hooks. Holy crap. Now all the baits I'm showing you right now, they're all moving baits, and that's just because these bass this time of year, they're moving like crazy. Now yes, it becomes slow fishing, that's when you want to switch it up to a Texas rig or a drop shot or anything like that. But I mean, I have fished with these lures all day long out at the lakes and caught fish all day pretty consistently on them. So I'm gonna be taking these same exact techniques out probably tomorrow, and hopefully a pretty wicked one, and you guys will see all these techniques freaking hammer the fish. The last technique, you can use a hard one or a soft one. That did not sound right. That is the jerkbait. The jerkbait is a freaking awesome bait. You can't go wrong with these little guys. As you can see, this one is relatively small. It's only about a 3-inch jerkbait. This one dives anywhere from 3 to 5 feet. So you have that perfect depth if the fish are looking up and they're suspended a little bit. But if you do need to get down there a little bit deeper, you can always use a jerkbait that actually drops down to anywhere from 10 to 12 feet. Get in that middle water column and start cranking on those fish. And one thing that I see a lot of people doing when they're fishing with jerkbaits this time of year is not only do they just rip, and they're hoping that they could catch a fish. Now, sometimes that does work, because sometimes the fish are so freaking fired up that they just see that going through the water column, twitching all over the place, left and right, and they just hammer it, and you're on. Sometimes that does work, but sometimes they do want it at a pause. So always try a different twitch. You know, sometimes try like a pop, 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 let it sit, then a quick pop, then like do, and then do. Like try different things. Try any sort of a, what's the word am I thinking of? I guess we'll go with motion. Try a bunch of different motions with the rod tip. Make sure you have a nice flexible tip so that you can get that perfect whip on the rod, so that that bait works perfectly in the water column and really rips through it nicely, and you create all that water disturbance to try to attract those bass. Jerkbaits are an awesome fall bait. You cannot go wrong with them. You guys are gonna go out, you guys are gonna hammer the fish with all these techniques, and with all these techniques you work them around the same areas. The swim baits you can work around weed lines, you can work them over any sort of grass beds, through some timber, you can work spinner baits through timber, stuff like that. They work excellent around any sort of wood structure and obviously any sort of weeds. But out here in Arizona, we primarily have rock. So fish all these techniques on ledges, fish all these techniques on points, any sort of shallow banks early in the morning when those fish are really pushing the bait fish up and just absolutely hammering them. And go out there and crank on some LMBs. I hope that this video helped you guys out, and I hope that you guys can go out there and catch some freaking mondos, because that is one thing I cannot do. I gave myself the new nickname baby bass catcher because I cannot catch a big bass to save my life. So I hope you guys can at least get on a few big ones, and I hope these techniques helped you guys out. If you guys enjoyed it, and if they did help out, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a comment down below. Try to help me build my channel and get it out there in the YouTube algorithm. I greatly appreciate you guys so very much. We'll see you guys next time on Southwest Fishing.